Yo YouTube, I'm back for a short hiatus which I shall go into in a moment. Today it's Friday the 14th of June and my figures for today are as follows. I have filled up with fuel last night and my new average fuel price at the moment is 13.24 pence per mile. Today I have driven for 387 miles, 387, and I have worked for 11 and a half hours, or I will have done when I get home. I have earned gross from 3 CX jobs, £255, 255, and of that I've spent on fuel £51.24, which means that my net earnings after fuel today is £204.204. So it is my target. Now, I wasn't really working Tuesday, and I said I wasn't working Wednesday and Thursday, so I've only had 2 days working this week. I will talk about my weekly figures at the end of the rest of what I'm going to say. So let me go into, first of all, what happened after my last video, which was Monday the 10th. And no one's mentioned it in the, although there was one comment about my the sound of my service alarm, which irritated a subscriber. Or a viewer at least, but no one's mentioned, although you may have noticed it, a whining sound in my recent videos, and it's a sound that's got worse and worse over the last few weeks, and I didn't know what it was, and I was going to try and get through until my next booked service, which was originally booked for the 28th of June. So my last service was on the 4th of April, and that was just over 10,000 miles ago. But that whining sound as I drove was getting a bit worse, and on Monday I had my AdBlue countdown for the system saying, well, engine won't restart in 500 miles. And I've had that on and off intermittently for the last few months, and I just tend to learn to ignore that, because when I fill up with AdBlue, or if I put diesel in, or if I stop the engine and overnight and start again, it usually goes away or resets itself. But on Monday it didn't do that, which is what part of why I had those alarms going off in my video. Now I have plenty of miles left to get home. However, I had booked a job for Tuesday morning, which was picking up from, I think it was Peterborough, and dropping off in Nottingham. So I didn't want to let that shipper down. So I, on Tuesday morning, did my usual, prepared my day as usual, got in my van, and went to Peterborough to pick up the load, and it had not reset the count. So I had something like 180 miles left on the clock at that point, which was enough to get to Peterborough and Nottingham and home, absolutely, but not much else. So I did the job, got to Nottingham, I filled up with AdBlue and turned the engine off, obviously because it's offloaded, and it didn't reset the count. So I was in Nottingham with about 95 miles left to go, and I just didn't feel I could risk it. So I had to deadmine it home, and on the way back I called the garage, explained the situation, and they told me to bring it in that afternoon. That was Tuesday afternoon. So we had a discussion about what to do about it, and we came up with a solution, and I agreed to do that. And at the same time, we agreed, although it's expensive, to replace the turbo. The turbo was the thing that was whining as I drove, and it's the thing that was getting very worn. So I left my van with the garage on Tuesday afternoon. I got home okay, and I had about 40 miles left, I think, by the time I got home, spare. And I got home. I was never going to work on the Wednesday because I had a scan booked in for my fistula, and so I was never going to work Wednesday anyway, and I was hoping that they could get it done as soon as possible, and they said they might get it done by Thursday, depending on if the part arrives on the Wednesday. And I kind of in my head thought, well, that's it then, probably I can't rely on having the van back this week, and maybe I'll have to wait till Monday or the end of Friday. And I was disappointed about that because I've learned that Fridays are a good day to earn money. There's more work or there's less drivers, or both, on a Friday, pretty much consistently. So if I'm ever going to have a day off, I want to avoid it being a Friday. So my van was in, and I got a call on Thursday afternoon and it was ready. So I went to pick up my van, paid quite a large repair bill, but it's kind of I think it's worth it because I want to keep this van as a working tool for at least a year and a half, and there's not a lot else that can go wrong with it now. The only other thing that I can think of that could really be expensive is if the clutch or gearbox or both go, but I don't tend to drive my vehicle very roughly. I'm quite gentle with it, so I'm expecting that to last at least the time that I've got the van left. It might not, I'm aware of that. I've got 282,000 miles on the clock, and I bought it with 125 on, so I've done about 160,000 miles in the, what is it, three or 4 years, 2001, 3 years, I did 3 years now. That wasn't all doing courier work. Some of that was multi-drop work, so it's a lot less miles. So anyway, the van's back. It's purring like a kitten. Love the sound it makes. It just feels like I'm driving a new van compared to the old one I was driving. Not in terms of the dashboard or anything. It's the same tatty dashboard. It's now a 7-year-old vehicle, but it's my tatty 7-year-old van, and we're going to stay together until death do us part. Either it or me. So, van's back. I'm pleased I've got it back. There's no. I had a few other bits and pieces done. I had a new panel put on that had broken, and I had a door sort of that was sticking, just greased up as well. So there's a few bits and pieces as well as a full service. So I went dealing with the AdBlue problem as well. So that's back on the road, and then on Thursday, last night, I did bid on jobs for this morning, and I did win one, and I was really pleased about the job that I won. So I was pleased to have my van back, although it was an expensive transaction, but I was also pleased to win the job because the job that I won was with the shipper that caught me co-loading in Peterborough about a month and a half ago. And I said to myself, if I ever get a chance to do a job for that shipper, I'll give him a reduction because of that. But I may never get the opportunity because they may just block me, or they may just never accept my bids. But lo and behold, on yesterday, they accepted my bid. And I did say to him, do you remember I was the guy that did that? I want to take a tenner off the price that I've won this bid at. So it was, I put a price on £70 for 75 miles loaded, and I took it down to £60 as like a sort of a thank you for being allowed to do work for them again on this occasion. We had a little bit of a chat. It was all very friendly. It wasn't the big boss guy that was talking to us, one of his employees, but he remembered this. He remembered me. He remembered my company name. He remembered the situation, and he was fine about it now. He did say to me that despite what happened last time, he did recommend to his boss that they give me another chance as a company. So I wasn't aware of this until I spoke to him, and I like to think that's because I owned up to the mistake that I made and apologised immediately and did all I could to rectify it. So I don't like messing up, like big time messing up. There's been a couple of occasions when I've done that, but I am quite pleased with myself that when I have done that, on all the occasions so far at least, I've managed to behave in such a way that the person that I've messed up with has been left on good terms at the end of that interaction, and has been willing to give me work again after it. So it's not a common occurrence, but I think it's a trait that I'm proud of, that I'm able to do that. I don't often say stuff I'm proud about, but it's genuinely something that I'm pleased and that I recognise in myself, that I am able to sort of take responsibility and win people back round when I've really messed up, usually. The only time I can't do it really is if I mess up on the road, like if I go in the wrong lane, or if I accidentally cut someone up and I apologise. They're often so angry and annoyed we can't have that kind of situation where you do resolve it, but because you're obviously different vehicles. It doesn't happen that often, but I think like all of us, if you're on the road 60 hours a week plus, you're going to make the odd mistake with lane changes or speed, judging speeds, particularly if you're in an area you don't know very well. Right, anyway, moving on. So I was really pleased the Thursday to be given that job, and then to have a chance to give a reduction. So the job was from Grantham to Leeds. So it was an 8:50 pickup in the morning, and it's about 25 dead miles for me to get there this morning. About 45 minutes roughly. So I left at 8 o'clock and I arrived bang on 10 to 9. I had to wait for a bit to do the pickup because the person I was meeting wasn't there. But by the time I got loaded up, it was 10 past 9, so it wasn't too long to wait. About 10-15 minutes. And then I made my way towards Leeds, and I arrived at the drop-off site at 10:50, and I was off site having done all my work by 11 o'clock on the dot. And so now I was looking for my second job, and it being a Friday, I was pretty optimistic that I'd get something. And my kind of rough plan was to probably head towards, I thought I'd head towards Manchester, and then sort of head from there either down towards Birmingham or down towards the East Midlands or home. It was my third job of the day. There was quite a lot of jobs to bid on at the Leeds area, a lot of them from Manchester itself as well. But I managed to get a job within 10 minutes. I had a call, and that was a job from Leeds going to Hinckley. When I bid on about 3 or 4 jobs. I actually got that call, and while I was on that phone, another phone call came through. So it's happened a few times now where I've got a couple of phone calls at the same time on bids that I'm doing. So I do feel I'm kind of judging my bidding a bit better now than I was previously. And the other thing about that Hinckley job was was quite strict with myself about not going to London at that point in the day, not going to sort of really out of the way places if there was any alternative to that. So that job was for a short wheelbase van. The loaded miles was 110, and it was a long wheelbase van, sorry, and I bid £125. I was 5 miles away from the pickup, about 20 minutes to drive to get to the pickup. So I made my way to the Leeds pickup. Was there for just gone 11:30, and then picked up the couple of items I had to take from there down to Hinckley. By the time I got to Hinckley and was offloaded, it was 35 minutes past 2. And this is where it got a little bit more tricky. There was about 30 jobs when I arrived, which I had to comb through, and I kind of was quite strict with myself. I kept in place the London jobs in case that was all I had available, going from sort of that area to London. But I didn't want to go away from home. In the past, I would have taken whatever long distance job came up, even at that time on a Friday. But now being a bit more nuanced about it, and I was trying to be a bit more considered about the jobs that I took. So I got through all 30 jobs. Whilst I looked at them all, there's only about 2 or 3 that were really vaguely suitable, and that was including a couple of jobs going to London. But I put in about 3 or 4 jobs, and I did get a call, and in the end it was a call that I got at 2:50, so I'd spent 15 minutes doing that search, and the job was going from Leicester, which was 40 minutes away, about 16 miles away, and it's going to Bedford. And Bedford was on the way, taking me closer to home. Not very close, but closer than any other ones were. And I got that job for £70. It was a short wheelbase van job. Short wheelbase van job. 62 loaded miles. I said I got £70 for it. 70. So, and that job was involved going to meet another driver that had broken down, taken one of the items off his van, and his van was pretty full of stuff. Just took the one item, had to be delivered today. He was really quite stressed, I must say. I felt for him a bit. He had a Luton van full of heavy wooden stuff. He's on his own as well. And so we put this big wooden item onto my van, and then I made my way towards Bedford. And he asked me to send him a picture of the delivery, so he could let the customer know who he was delivering for, which I agreed to do. He asked for the ETA, which I gave him, and this was on top of the person who booked me. So I'm not really sure what was going on here. I'll try and explain it without giving away any names. So I won a job off the CX from like a driver shipper, I would call them. And they had it was a company name that was the name of a person, and they had a mobile number. And when I arrived, I was picking up from another driver, so it wasn't the person I was working for. But I got the impression, just from the way that the driver spoke, that it was his job that I was helping him with, not someone else's. The way he spoke was, it was like, this is my customers, and I've got to do this. I've had a really bad day, and I've got to deal with this. It didn't sound to me like a subcontractor. So I was a bit confused as to why didn't he post the job on the CX. And then obviously he had items, and I could see from the items they were from a manufacturer. So obviously his customer was the manufacturer, and then he was delivering these items to residential addresses who were the final end user customers. And the one that I was taking was one where the end user customer had, for whatever reason, have their item today. So I then fed back on the CX to the person who gave me the job that I delivered it, and sent a message to the guy whose van has broken down, to him directly that I delivered it. And I think he was going to send that photo that I gave to him to his customer, the manufacturer. But it's not my question, not my place to question these things. I did as good a job as I could. and luckily the customer at the other end was very wasn't very angry about anything. They weren't expecting, so it wasn't late. So fair enough. Well, the one problem I had was I got to the residential address and I rang the bell, and then the wife of the customer answered the bell through like the ring doorbell, and asked me to leave the item, on their drive, and I explained to her it was too heavy for me to do it by myself, and then a lady in the house came to the door, who I then worked out was the daughter of the customer, but she was an adult, and she wasn't prepared to help. There was no neighbour to help, so she rang the customer, who's the father, and he said that he'd be there as soon as he could. So they were on their way back. So I waited in their drive for about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and then they arrived in their car, the husband and the wife. And then the husband and I did the manly thing and carried this heavy item into his garden. There's no way I would have done it by myself, and I wasn't keen on trying to get off my van in case I damaged it by myself. So he was, I think, happy that I waited, and I was happy that he helped. So in the end, all was good in the end. And so I was finished offloaded in the end by 5:25. So now I had a quick look at jobs. There wasn't anything suitable. It's gone 5 o'clock on a Friday. I'm an hour and a half from home, so I'm now doing that journey. I'm dead miling it home. It's about 70 miles in total, so it's not too bad. And then I'll be home pretty early for me, to be honest. I'll be home before 7:30, by about 7:15. So that's been a pretty decent day and week overall, considering how my van was at the start of the week. Now, I did miss out on winning a job for Monday because I was too busy concentrating on this final job of the day. So I'll keep an eye out over the weekend for Monday's job. But I may have to get up early on Monday and sort of do it from scratch, as it were, on Monday. So I think next week I'm able to work every day. I think I'll be back early. No, yeah. I think next week's free. I've got the week after. I've got a few things on. So I want to get a good week about again next week. My target of £200 after fuel was met this week, but it's only 2 days. I've excluded the £60 I earned on Tuesday. It was the one job from to Nottingham and then go home. The £60 covered the fuel, and I just the rest of the day off. So I've just got it as being 2 days' work. So here are my stats for the week, and they are as follows. From my 2 days working, I've driven 865 miles, 865. I have earned gross £585, 585. I spent £118 and 64 pence on fuel, say 119 on fuel, and that means that I've earned, after fuel costs for those 2 days, £466, 466, and that was a total of 24 3/4 hours of work. My average amount of earnings per mile driven after fuel is taken into account is 53.91 pence per mile, so not good enough yet, but better than it has been recently. My average amount earned per day after fuel, with my target being £200 now, £233, so really pleased about that. And then if you take away from my net earnings of 466, 2 days worth of business expenses, then divide that by the hours worked, I have earned, for the time that I worked, excluding Tuesday because I'm ignoring that day, £12.36 per hour. Now, I don't care about the hourly rates. It isn't important to me. What important to me is what I earn at the end of the day, end of the week. And another reason why I wanted to just mention about hourly rates and minimum wage, working wage in relation to this job is, it might just be the way I feel about it, but I suspect that a lot of self-employed couriers feel the same. It doesn't actually feel like work, and it isn't actually work in the sense that other work is. So any hourly paid work, let's say working in a hotel or a bar, in a shop, in a restaurant, be a waiting staff or a kitchen, or whatever other hourly rate jobs there are, and any salary jobs that are based on hourly rate. So let's say you get paid a salary, but it's based on the minimum wage, say, or working wage, or the average wage, whatever it is. Then there is no job that I can think of that is as easy to do as this job, because the work for this job is about developing contacts, finding customers, expanding your network, building a business links. But if you're going to join the CX basically does all that for you. You've got to make the calls or make the emails, but it does it for you. It puts jobs on a plate for you to bid for them. And if you win those jobs, because you've got your documents already preloaded into the system, then you don't have to work, in inverted commas, at getting the customer. The customer kind of comes to you via the CX. And there are lots of pros and cons, which Leslie have talked about. But my point about this is just really, what is the actual work here? When I do a 12 or 13 hour day, that's not like working in a bar for 13 hours, or even working in an office for 13 hours. It's driving a vehicle, and it's the odd stop here and there with maybe a bit of forklifting on and off of a pallet or a box on and off. It's not like you've got to concentrate on a spreadsheet or on creating content, as in like designing something for a magazine or serving customers. The work is very low key in terms of effort and in terms of mental strain. So really, the not so hidden secret about this job, which is why lots of people love it, and including myself, it doesn't feel like work because you're in your van listening to music or listening to YouTube, or listen to podcasts, or listen to audiobooks, or the radio, or music, and you can have that going on. You can talk to people on the phone hands free. You can sort of work, earn money, but it doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't feel like it. I haven't worked in warehouses in the past. I haven't done the sort of 4 on 4 off 12-hour shifts, and that's real work. That's really hard, physically and mentally. And working in a factory would be really just hard work. I appreciate that hard and easy are relative. So if you haven't got a driving license, then being a courier is very hard because you can't drive a van. But if you have got a driving license and you can speak English clearly enough to understand what to do and to communicate, it isn't really a hard job. And so really, a pounds per hour for this job, it's quite misleading. I think it is anyway. It's useful as a comparison in terms of what you earn, but the job is so much more. You get so much more from this job than just the money aspect, the freedom, and the I can't say the word, but the kinship with other couriers. If you're that way inclined, you'll find other couriers. You can link with them directly and It's, everyone knows what you're going through. You can sort of get support that way. The mental health, is that members of that, and the sort of just ease of it. So yeah, so a 12-hour day doing this is not like a 12-hour day in a factory or in a restaurant. Absolutely cannot be compared in my view. Right, that'll do. So I hope that you are all being successful, however you choose to define that word for yourselves. Thank you very much for listening to my video. I shall see you on, or speak to you on Monday. Farewell, friends.